Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in, because this week was a big one. We saw three huge and seemingly separate global forces. We're talking money, technology, and war. They all just collided. And the way they hit each other is going to define the market for weeks to come. First, you got to understand the backdrop for the whole week. Everything we're about to talk about happened during day 21 of a new and escalating conflict, one that's already twisting global trade and alliances. You have to keep this in mind. It's absolutely critical for understanding everything else that went down.
So yeah, you've got three completely different stories, all reaching a boiling point at the exact same time. You've got the money story, which is being driven by the US Federal Reserve. Then you have the technology story, defined by NVIDIA's massive bet on the future of AI. And then you have the story of war, with a huge shift in leadership over in Iran. This is the collision we're going to unpack today.
All right, let's start with that first force, the macro story. For weeks, gold was, the ultimate safe place to hide your money in a world at war. But this week, the Federal Reserve gave it a really harsh reality check, and that whole narrative just flipped almost overnight.
It all came down to this one sentence. Just this, from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Now, the Fed didn't even raise interest rates, but this line, it signaled a huge shift in how they're thinking. And in the markets, the specific words a central banker uses, they can move billions and billions of dollars in an instant.
And this slide, this gets right to the heart of it. The market was basically praying that inflation was transitory, right? A temporary headache that would just fade away. But when Powell signaled it might be structural, something more permanent, more baked into the system, well, that just completely blew up the whole argument for owning gold.
And the reaction was, wow, immediate and incredibly brutal. In just a couple of days, gold just cratered. We're talking its worst single week since way back in February of 1983. A drop of around 10% is a seismic move for something that's supposed to be your stable, safe haven asset.
So here's why it happened. The 10-year Treasury yield jumped up to 4.2%. All of a sudden, holding gold, which pays you nothing, zero yield, became way less attractive. It smashed right through that key $5,000 psychological level, and now it's in a desperate fight to hold this new support zone. This week, the reality of high interest rates just completely overpowered the fear from the war.
But here's the crazy part. While the macro world of gold and bonds was getting absolutely crushed, the tech world was telling a completely different story. A story that kind of seems to defy all the doom and gloom. Just look at this number. I mean, the sheer audacity of it. NVIDIA came out and said they expect $1 trillion in orders for their next-gen AI platforms through 2027. This isn't just, optimism. This is a flat-out declaration that the AI revolution is the single biggest economic force on the planet for the rest of this decade.
And look, this trillion-dollar forecast isn't just some fantasy number they pulled out of a hat. It's backed by real products that are shipping right now. The Vera Rubin platform, already in production. The crucial memory for it, already shipping, which Micron confirmed with their blowout earnings. And there's a new operating system, OpenClaw, that promises to let companies build AI workers super fast. The whole ecosystem is just on fire. So this created the central conflict for investors all week long. You've got this incredible forward-looking story of a tech transformation running headfirst into the brick wall of high interest rates and geopolitical chaos. NVIDIA's bet is that the AI cycle it's too powerful. It can't be derailed by all this other stuff. Okay, let's move to that third major force, because while tech was dreaming about the future, the war in the present took a much darker turn. There was a big change in leadership that basically promises this conflict is going to drag on.
This timeline just shows you how fast this all went down. It started with that strike that killed Iran's supreme leader. Just 8 days later, his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, a known hardliner, was elected to replace him. And this week, he made it crystal clear to the world that there would be no backing down.
And if you want to know why this matters, look at this number. This isn't some abstract political chess game. Right now, 150 freight ships are just stalled, stuck, because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. This has a direct, real-world impact on the global economy. We're talking everything from oil prices to your Amazon delivery.
And here's the new reality. The new Supreme Leader's position is totally unambiguous. He has publicly stated he will not negotiate, he will not seek a ceasefire, and that critical shipping lane, the Strait of Hormuz, will stay blocked. This just crushed any hope for a quick end to all this and signaled we're in for a long, drawn-out fight.
So you've got these three giant forces pushing and pulling on everything. You've got the Fed being hawkish, the AI revolution being bullish, and the war getting worse. So the real takeaway here is, what do you watch? How do you know which force is winning the tug of war?
So here it is. 3 key things to keep your eyes on, one for each of our competing stories. First, for the money story, watch gold. Does it hold that critical support zone? Second, for technology, watch the chip stocks. If they close strong, it shows investors believe the AI story is bigger than the storm. And third, for the war story, look for any news. Any headlines at all about ships moving in the Strait of Hormuz. Any movement there would change things immediately.
And that's where we are. This clash of forces is completely unresolved. So what's the dominant story right now? Is it fear, driven by war and tight money? Or is it hope, driven by a technological revolution that promises a totally different future? How these 3 signals play out? Well, that's going to tell us which story is writing the next chapter.